All right. So today we're going to dive into Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
In class?
You know it. And you send over that YouTube summary, which is perfect. We're going to pull out the good stuff, without getting bogged down.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about that emotional bank account idea.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, no one can hurt you without your consent. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Absolutely. Covey's work is really timeless. The principles are just as relevant now as they were back then when he first wrote it.
Right. Okay, so let's start unpacking this. Paradigms and principles, right?
Yeah.
Remember that optical illusion in the video? The old woman, young woman?
Yeah.
I mean, it really shows how our paradigms, how we see the world, totally shapes our reality.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is. Because both images are right there,
Yeah.
in the picture. It's not that one's right and one's wrong. It's that our perception, dictates what we see. And it's such a good analogy for how our preconceived notions color our understanding of everything.
Absolutely. And then Covey talks about the character ethic versus the personality ethic.
Right.
What's that all about?
So the character ethic is all about those timeless principles. Integrity, fairness, like
Yeah.
the bedrock.
Yeah.
The personality ethic is more about those surface level techniques and those quick fixes.
Got it.
Covey's argument is that, lasting change comes from building that strong character.
Like building a house on solid rock
Yes.
versus building it on sand. You
Exactly.
need that foundation.
Unshakable foundation.
Yeah.
And then, the idea of like re-scripting yourself, which you talked about with Anwar Sadat,
Yeah.
really aligns with your interest in self-improvement. Sadat was able to transform his self-image while he was imprisoned, showing that we actually have the power to rewrite our internal narratives.
Wow. Powerful. Okay, so let's get into those habits.
Yes.
Number 1, be proactive.
Be proactive.
Take charge.
It's about recognizing that you're not just a product of your circumstances. You have the power to choose how you respond.
Okay.
And this is where he introduces that idea of the circle of concern and the circle of influence.
So the circle of concern are all the things we worry about,
Right.
but the circle of influence are the things we can actually, take action on.
Yes, exactly. And by putting our energy into that circle of influence, what we can actually control, we expand our freedom.
Makes sense. There's that great quote in the video, the problem is not out there. The problem is the thought that the problem is out there.
Oh, that's good.
It really makes you think.
It does. It challenges us to take ownership, of our thoughts and actions.
For sure. Okay, habit 2. Begin with the end in mind.
Uh-huh.
I love that thought experiment. Visualizing your own funeral
Powerful, right?
makes you think about what really
It
matters.
just forces you to clarify your values.
Yeah.
And then he has that whole concept of the two creations, the mental creation and the physical creation. It really highlights how important it is to have a plan and to be intentional, He compares having a personal mission statement to having your own constitution. It's that guiding document for your life.
So you're starting with that clear vision
Yes.
of where you want to end up. And then Covey also talks about the idea of your center,
Yeah.
like what drives our decisions.
It's at the core. Is it your family? Is it money? Is it work? Is it principles?
Yeah.
And identifying that center helps us really align our actions, with what we truly value.
It's huge. All right, habit 3. Put first things first. I know you're into time management, and this is where Covey gets into it.
He does.
Good time.
He introduces that time management matrix,
Yeah.
categorizing tasks into 4 quadrants based on urgency and importance.
Okay.
And understanding that matrix can be a total game changer for productivity.
It's so easy to get caught up doing good things, But that quote from the video, the enemy of the best is often the good.
Yes.
We have to say no sometimes to those good things.
To make space for the great things.
Yeah.
And the time management matrix, it encourages us to dedicate more of our time to quadrant 2, the activities that are important but not urgent.
Like long-term planning and personal development.
Exactly.
Relationships. The things we put off because they don't have that due date.
Exactly.
So, big question for all of us. Which quadrant are we spending most of our time in?
Right.
And what does that say about what we really care about?
Yeah. What are your priorities?
Okay, now we're moving into the public victories. Habits 4, 5, and 6. The habits of interdependence. So the first 3 were about personal mastery, those private victories.
Yeah.
Now these are building on that, but shifting to how we work with others.
Exactly. Connecting the personal with the interpersonal.
I love that analogy from the video. the emotional bank account to explain how trust works.
Yeah.
Like a real bank account, deposits build it up, withdrawals chip away at it, makes you think about how we're treating the people in our lives.
Are you making those deposits? Kindness, understanding, support? Or are you making withdrawals and not even realizing it?
Right. And then habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. We all need to get better at listening. Really listening.
It's such a powerful skill. And it goes way beyond just hearing the words someone is saying. It's about really tuning into their emotions,
Yeah.
their perspective, their needs.
The video talked about how most of us listen with the intent to reply, not the intent to understand.
Right. And that creates such a barrier.
Yeah.
Because when we're not truly present, we miss so much
Yeah.
important information, opportunities to connect.
We're so busy thinking about what we're going to say next.
And remember, only a small fraction of communication actually comes from the words themselves.
Right.
Body language, tone of voice, all of that.
So empathic listening is about paying attention to all those cues, the words and the whole picture to really understand what they're trying to tell us.
Put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah. Okay, habit 6. Synergize. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
It is. And it builds on that empathic listening.
Uh-huh.
It's realizing the value of different perspectives and understanding that collaboration, can create something much bigger than any one of us could do alone.
Like teamwork on another level?
It really is. But that principle of synergy, it applies to all areas of life.
Oh, interesting.
Being open to new possibilities, co-creating something amazing.
Love it. All right, we've made it to habit 7. Sharpen the saw. This is all about renewal. Always getting better. The video used that great analogy of a dull saw. What are you going to do with that? Nothing. So we need to be renewing ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
It's all about investing in yourself, which ultimately benefits every area of your life. And it's not about one big overhaul.
Yeah.
It's about those little renewal activities. The video mentioned things like exercise, meditation, reading, nature.
So important. And this really speaks to you wanting to improve yourself.
It does.
It's building that habit of growth.
Exactly. Sharpen the saw, make sure you have the energy and focus and resilience to actually use all those other 6 habits.
This has been so insightful.
It has.
Going through these 7 habits, it's amazing how it all connects,
Right.
Building on each other. It's like a guide to being better in every part of life.
A framework for a more fulfilling life, more meaningful life. And it all starts with that inner journey, of self-discovery and growth.
There's so much to unpack here, but before we move on, I want to go back to a few key points from the video. Things that really deserve a little more attention.
The video talk a lot about language. Are we using proactive language?
Yeah.
Focused on solutions and choices? Or are we, stuck in that reactive mindset, blaming everything else? It's about taking responsibility for your own thoughts and feelings.
Choosing to be empowered, not helpless.
Exactly. And something else that goes hand in hand with that is the importance of making commitments.
Okay.
And keeping them. Starting small. Commitments to yourself.
Yeah.
Building that integrity. And then it extends out to the commitments you make to other people.
It's about becoming someone people can rely on, someone who's true to their word.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to putting first things first, the video had some really practical stuff for becoming what they called a Quadrant 2 self-manager.
Ooh, I like that. Quadrant 2 sounds so official. So what's the secret?
Well, first, you got to figure out your key roles. Like, what are the different hats you wear, where you put your time and energy, parent, partner, friend, employee, all that.
So it's not about just having a giant to-do list.
No.
It's more strategic, figuring out which actions will actually make a difference.
Exactly. And then, you pick a few goals you want to hit in each of those roles over the next week. And here's the important part. You actually block off time for them. Like, they're important meetings.
The video said we should schedule those Quadrant 2 things first.
Yes.
Before all those urgent but not so important things take over. It's like being in control of your time, not just reacting to whatever comes up.
Exactly. Now, moving on to those public victories. Those habits that are all about interdependence.
Okay.
Habit 4, think win-win. It's a whole different way of looking at how we deal with people. It's not about one person winning and the other person losing.
Got it.
It's working together to find solutions that are good for everybody.
Coming to the table with respect.
Yes. And, wanting to collaborate.
I like it.
And the video actually, breaks down 6 different paradigms of human interaction.
Really?
From win-win all the way to lose-lose. Makes you think, which one do we usually fall back on? in different situations.
That's a good point. Something to be aware of.
Yeah. And Covey, he argues that, in the long run, win-win is pretty much always the best way to go.
Makes sense.
It builds trust. It makes relationships stronger. And it leads to solutions that actually last.
What about that idea, win-win or no deal?
Right. That's especially good for when you just can't seem to find that win-win.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better to just walk away than to force something that's not going to work for everyone.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This one really hit home for me.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We could all use a little more of that empathic listening.
So true.
It's not easy.
No.
It goes way deeper than just hearing the words someone is saying.
Uh-huh.
It's about really trying to get their emotions, their perspective, what they need.
The video said most of us listen to reply, not to understand.
And that's a problem. Because if we're not truly present, we're going to miss a lot.
Yeah.
And don't forget, only a tiny part of communication is actually the words.
Right.
Body language, tone of voice, all that plays a huge role.
So empathic listening means paying attention to all of it.
Yes. The words and the whole picture.
It's about getting out of our own heads.
Yes.
Yeah.
And putting ourselves in their shoes.
Exactly. Okay, habit 6. Synergize. Building on that understanding.
Yeah. Recognizing that different perspectives are valuable.
Yeah.
And that we can get so much more done together than we ever could on our own.
Like the video said, synergy isn't just about teamwork at work.
Right.
It's a way of life.
A mindset.
Yeah.
All about collaboration. Creating things together.
Okay, last but not least, habit 7, sharpen the saw. All about self-renewal and always improving. The video talked about it having 4 parts: physical, spiritual, mental, social, and emotional.
And, those are all connected. When you work on one, it usually helps the others.
Interesting.
It's about taking care of yourself as a whole person.
Making those choices to nourish yourself.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect in every area. It's about figuring out what works for you.
Yeah.
What gives you joy, what gives you energy, what makes you feel connected. The video mentioned things like exercise, meditation, reading, being out in nature. And it's about making those things a regular part of your life, not just something you do when you're already burnt out.
Yeah, like weaving it into your routine. I like that.
Covey calls this the upward spiral. It's that constant cycle of getting better and better.
I like that visual. Speaking of, the video also mentioned this thing called scripting others.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't really sure what that meant.
It's a pretty cool idea. It's about seeing the potential in other people.
Okay.
And encouraging them to go for it. Instead of focusing on their weaknesses, you're pointing out what they're good at and helping them build on those strengths. It's like, writing a positive script for their future.
So not manipulating them or anything?
No. It's about empowering them.
Yeah.
Supporting them.
Believing in them.
Believing in them, even when they might not believe in themselves.
Yeah.
Creating a space where they feel safe to, take risks.
To learn and grow. Like Anwar Sadat re-scripting himself in prison.
Right.
Imagine if we all did that for each other.
I know. It's definitely not always easy.
Yeah.
But it's so rewarding. It's something to aim for.
Yeah.
And, it all comes back to that interdependence thing. We all have something special to offer. And we can do so much more when we work together.
This has been fantastic.
It has.
This whole deep dive into the 7 habits. I feel like we've learned so much useful stuff.
Covey's work is just like this timeless guide to living a better life. And what I really appreciate is that it's not about some big overnight change.
Right.
It's about those small, consistent changes that we make, day by day. Choice by choice.
It's about deciding to be proactive,
Yeah.
focusing on what we can actually control, starting with a clear vision,
Yes.
and making those things that really matter a priority, investing in ourselves, investing in our relationships.
Exactly.
Trying to understand before we expect to be understood,
Yeah.
and then, working together.
And remembering that self-improvement is not the destination. It's an ongoing journey.
I love that. It's like climbing up that upward spiral.
The upward spiral. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with something to think about. What's one tiny step you can take today, right now, to move yourself up on that spiral?
Good question.
What one choice can you make? What one action can you take to bring you closer to the person you want to be? Keep learning, keep growing, keep pushing to be the best version of yourself. Until next time.
Oh, before we wrap up, there was one more thing in the video that I thought was really interesting.
Oh,
They
yeah?
talked about this law of the harvest.
Right.
Sounds kind of deep.
It is. It's like a natural law. You reap what you sow. It applies to, everything.
Yeah.
Relationships, work, personal growth, it's all about the effort you put in. It determines the results you get. Pretty
So
simple.
we're responsible for what happens because of the choices we make.
Exactly. Covey says real change comes from inside us,
Yeah.
not from changing things around us.
Yeah.
You got to work on your character, your habits.
Right.
That's where growth comes from.
So it goes back to that upward spiral. It's about constantly improving, building on each little win.
Yeah. And it starts with just one step. What's one small thing you can change today to, get yourself moving up?
Covey says we got to be proactive, choose to grow, and live a life that matches our values.
This has been incredible.
I know, right?
Really going deep on these 7 habits, it feels like we've only just started to understand this book. It's packed with wisdom.
There's always more to learn. I'd encourage you to keep coming back to these ideas. Each time you do, I bet you'll find something new. It's a journey, not a destination.
Well said. And you know what? This whole deep dive has been just that, a journey. I hope it's been as eye-opening for you as it's been for me.
Being effective is about making sure what you do matches what you believe in. It's about having habits that help you reach your goals and building strong relationships where everyone benefits. It's about taking charge, having that end goal in sight, and focusing on what's important. It's about investing in ourselves and our relationships, trying to understand before we expect to be understood, and, working together to make things better.
It's about living with integrity, purpose, and always growing.
And most importantly, it's about remembering that we have the power to choose how we respond, to create our own path, and to make a difference in the world. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep trying to be your best self.
See you next time.